All right. Keep that energy up. I love it. My name is Jake Porway, and I am thrilled to be here talking to you all about AI for nonprofits, who I think of as kind of the better agents of our nature. Now, hello. I come to you today from Decoded Futures, which I'm tell you a bit about. But this question of how nonprofits can use AI is something that's followed me for a long time. So I started in the AI world, working in robotics. And right when I graduated from grad school, it was during the first big data wave. And I was really excited in this moment, not just because I got to be called sexy once, but because all of a sudden, everyone had, laptops, computers, cell phones, all of these devices connected. And to me, that said, oh my God, now we have all this data, all these, computers that we can use to learn more about our world than ever before. We can learn about how nonprofits work, how our communities run. We can use the same algorithms that Netflix is using to recommend movies to recommend social services. It's just going to happen like clockwork. And I quickly learned that for all of the incredible technology we built, 99% of it was being used on painfully first world problems. Making sure you know exactly what color Snuggie to buy. And I was just so dismayed. I was like, where's the room for the technologists that want to work on social impact? Is there no hope? And it turned out I wasn't alone, and it led to the founding of a nonprofit called DataKind, in great part to many of the people in this room, which is a volunteer network of data scientists, machine learning folks, yes, AI scientists, around the world that volunteered with nonprofits to build technology that nonprofits wanted to build themselves. And I want to emphasize this wasn't like IT, like, do you need help with your spreadsheets? It was trying to answer the question, what would your nonprofit build if you had Google's machine learning team? And the examples are really great. I'll show you one quickly. There's a group called Global Witness that focuses on rooting out corruption, helping communities that are affected by that. And what you're looking at here is a giant strip mine. These things are horrible. They're, often used for illegal mining. They cause pollution. They destroy communities. And Global Witness is super good at working with governments to shut them down when they know where they are. And a lot of illegal miners are not advertising that they're starting new strip mines. So they wondered, is there any way technology could help us find where the mines are? Well, even 2013, satellite imagery wasn't that new, so we teamed them up with some engineers from IBM. They built an algorithm, an AI, if you will, to identify where the mines were, and lo and behold, they could track them down. So there were hundreds of stories like this across the DataKind network, thousands of people around the world, and I just thought, man, this is such an incredible experience. It really left me with two clear principles that came out of this that I took with me. And the two takeaways were, number one, if you collaborate between nonprofits and technologists, that's one of the most important ways to create mission-aligned tech. And if you put the nonprofits at the center, if they're leading, then we can define how technology works for us. I got to experience that through DataKind, but it was, of course, the Code for America's, Engineers Without Borders, Tech to the Rescue, so many other groups who learned this and shared it as well. So in 2020, I left DataKind, I patted off my hands, and I said, well, that problem's solved. And now we all know when a new technology comes around, we'll all build collaborations with nonprofits and technologists, and the nonprofits will lead. It's just that easy. And then this little rascal came out a few years ago, and all of a sudden everyone's like, what do we do about AI? Oh my God. And I couldn't believe that once again, there were headlines about how wonderful AI was going to be in bringing us great drugs, painfully first world problems it was going to solve. And on top of that, this time just a little bit of doomerism, like, oh, by the way, this one might kill us. And so, it's a pretty wild moment to be back seeing those headlines. And I couldn't help but think, we know this story. This is exactly what it was like in other tech waves. And if this is your first time through, hey, I would be paralyzed too. How are you supposed to square the fact that AI can make you a little more productive or kill all of humanity? I'm not sure where I would start with that either. But the great news is we learned about that power of collaboration, power of centering nonprofits. And through some very smart conversations with Amber Oliver of Robin Hood Foundation and Julie Samuels over at Tech NYC, we have launching a program to rethink and reimagine that model. And that program is Decoded Futures. It's a group that lives right here in New York at the Tech NYC Foundation. Tech NYC, if you're not familiar, is a large umbrella group for many of the tech companies here in New York. And its mission is to bridge the gap between nonprofits and the AI capacity they need to build and understand cutting-edge technologies. And again, we're not talking tech support, and we're not talking trying to build stuff just for fun innovation's sake, but to really think about what do nonprofits want to see in this? We saw so many great examples from this stage. How can everyone have those kinds of examples? And I'll show you one that came through one of our programs. So Decoded Futures, one of its programs is a cohort model where nonprofits come for about 8 weeks, work on an AI problem they want to solve. In this group, the Reading Institute popped by, and by their own admission, they said, we really barely ever use ChatGPT. We're not AI, we're not tech forward. But they have a great mission. They get resources to people in the city for literacy. So, in New York, we've got 2 and 3 kids that are not proficient readers before we get out of high school. It's a serious problem. And so they help get resources like this, I've never heard of, a decodable book. Decodable books help kids with phonics problems, right? Maybe you just need simple words, fewer than 4 letters. You get Zach was a rat. These can really help kids get over those literacy hurdles. The problem with decodable books is they're so expensive. It costs $3,000 for a set. No low-income school is going to have them. Certainly no low-income family is going to spring for $3,000 decodable books. So you miss that opportunity. So and on top of this, I asked Katie Pace Miles, who was in that first image, I said, well, how many books does a kid need? 3, 5? What does it take to get through the curriculum? She was like, oh no, it's unlimited. As many as they can read. They need as many at-bats as they can get. And listen, kids get bored with the books they've got. They want to hear one about space. They want to hear one about a lion. And they're just that one decodable book. So I said, well, hey, we're looking at all these examples of ChatGPT writing wedding speeches and stuff. Could we write a decodable book with ChatGPT? So we teamed them up with an AI engineer, Marian Hogeveen, who's fantastic here in New York City. And she helped them design a custom GPT where they described to it, hey, we want a fictional book about a cheetah. Should work for lesson set 3, focus on the CH sound. Sure enough, out pops a book with pictures and focuses on the CH sound, words that 98% words that the student had seen or whatever the requirements were, and all the conditions they want. And so if you're watching this and you're like, I could do that. Yeah, you probably could. And that is what is so crazy. This stuff is so accessible if someone is able to be guided through how to build it and what good looks like and has the time to actually develop it. By the way, they are now developing this with Lit Lab, who's also doing this. And I think they're looking for a fairly modest amount of funding to disrupt the entire decodable book market. So as easy as this is, it's or as straightforward as it seems, it's this could dramatically change access to educational resources. So P.S. Any education funders in there, go talk to Reading Institute and Lit Lab. But I think this is a great example of exactly the kind of stuff that we're hoping to see. And so just to give a little stats on Decoded Futures, we launched barely last year. And since then, the team has raised $2 million for increased programming to connect nonprofits to the AI resources they need. We've run a number of these cohorts, treating over 80 nonprofits and 120 participants. And increasingly, we're looking at other AI capacity supports because you don't get locked into just one model. It's what do people need? We want to meet what the social sector needs. And in fact, some of you may be signed up for our AI 101 workshop today, right after this. Come on by and see us or poke your head in because we just want more of a chance for folks to touch and use this tech. So we can stop there. Just go okay, great. So there's Decoded Futures. Hey, we're getting technologists, nonprofits together. That's awesome. But I want to double click in just a little bit further because many folks probably still have the question of well, so what? What happens next? And there's 4 observations I'd say that we've seen about nonprofit AI and what this really means for the sector. 2 that are hopefully practical and 2 that are a little bit of thinkers. The first one is AI is moving fast. So these low cost, high touch experiences are needed not just more than ever, but on an ongoing basis. And so I'll give you an example of what we're seeing. So this is a group called New York Sunworks. They came to our first cohort. And they had a big spreadsheet management problem. Now, all these volunteers put info into spreadsheets and a person has to look through all of those and make sure they match. And it's just, it's hugely repetitive. And just like Reading Institute, 8 weeks later, they built a custom AI that solves that problem for them. They're cruising. Great. Well, 3 months later, we go to launch the next cohort. I run across this tool. This is called numerous.ai. Oh, and the video is not playing for you. So I'm going to describe to you. It's basically ChatGPT in spreadsheets. And the thing flies through it just like you describe. I want the price like this. It dumps it out. So just for fun, I tried New York Sunworks problem for 3 months earlier. It took 5 minutes. So do we teach that anymore? And then on top of it, we're starting this cohort. I actually thought, numerous, you have to pay for it. So I also asked an AI last month if it could just replicate that software, and it just did. So what do you teach when it's moving that fast? How do you get people up? What is 101? And that's why I think having these kind of workshop clinic models that keep evolving That's the only way we're going to be able to get through that. So I'd say to funders, that's the kind of stuff to look at. For nonprofits, that's the kind of stuff to be engaged in. Number 2, problem well-defined is half solved. No matter how the tech keeps changing, the big question we always get is like, but what can AI do for me? And that is going to be a continually moving target, and one that I think we should all be working towards continuing to refine and say out loud. At Decoded Futures, we try to make a real simple guide for folks. I'm not going to go through all these on the stage, but we always find there's like kind of 5 AI problems that you could solve with like an LLM. There's a little QR code if you want to read the deeper article. But I think what's important here is we've really tried to make these simple examples of a pain point that you would feel in your own work. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an AI 101 workshop start with like, well, a neural network is a series of weights. Who cares? I just want to know, like, I have to do something for my boss tomorrow. Like, can AI help me figure it out? Like, that's what I need. So, like, how do we keep this kind of resource fresh? How do we keep working on that? Hopefully, and you all find some useful tips from that article as well. So there's some like practicality about how we might be using AI. I want to talk about 2 like systems level things that are a little higher up that have been touched on this stage as well. Obviously, the job replacement question comes up. And I've been very like in this talk, like kind of, we should build, it's great. Like I am far from a tech positivist. I just want to lay out there. But that said, I'm kind of bullish on AI for nonprofit jobs, because if you think about the kinds of jobs that not AI is going to replace, it's all the jobs we have to beg for anyway, we never get, right? Like I ran DataKind because there weren't data scientists, but now you have one for $20 a month. So I keep thinking about what are the like, X without borders we don't need to go to all as much anymore, I for myself, I hear businesses all the time say, why can't nonprofits be more like a business? And there's so many things I don't like about that statement. Yes, I'm glad my friends are here as well. So condescending. But on top of it, it's like, well, because you don't have the capacity. Well, hey, you know what? Maybe we both have the same software teams now. So what does that mean? And an example of this we saw coming out of Decoded Futures was this guy, Josue from First Tech Fund. Oh, I love Josue. He's executive director of like 4 or 5 person nonprofit, which means that he's also their chief fundraiser. Oh my God, he's in the room. Josue, everybody. What's up, man? I didn't even know you're going to be here. Oh, amazing. Well, so you'll hear the better version of the story from him, but I was thrilled. It was just demonstrating his work here. What he'd focused on was how to get a custom GPT to do fundraising. First Tech Fund, because it's a huge amount of work. So many nods, yeah. Well, not only did he build a tool that worked well for his organization, during the process, he found a grant application that was due in 6 hours, if I recall. Yep, 6 hours. Now, if I saw something due in 24 hours, probably too late. There's no way we're getting all the materials together. But he said, you know what? I'm going to hack it out with my AI, put out the grant under the 6 hours, won the grant, got the funding. So, okay, he doesn't just have like a dev team. He has like a super powered dev team. I don't know people that could do that. So those are the kind of opportunities where I think this isn't job replacement. This is augmentation. We've heard it from Michael Ellison. I feel it's very real. Last provocation, because we got to get to whatever cocktails or workshops come after this. All right, well, here's the big one, though, to think about. There's a lot of this conversation around like AI going rogue. Is AI aligned? Is AI good or bad? My strong take is that the social sector is the only sector that can and must solve AI alignment. Oof, no pressure. Hey, all right. Yeah, okay, let's do it. No explanation needed. Let's just go. And so, if you're new to the phrase AI alignment, that's that fear that AI is going to run amok. And one of the favorite AI alignment problems is the paperclip maximizer. If you hadn't heard this, it's like, what would happen if an AI was told to make paperclips and it just kept making them and it ate the whole world and it got rid of people because all it wanted to do was make paperclips? That would be horrible. We'd have to stop the AI from doing that. Implicit in that conversation is we wouldn't want something so slavishly devoted to one outcome that it ignored everything else beyond our control. And the fake spin here is that it's the AI. But I would argue that we already have the paperclip maximizer, and it's called the paperclip industry. No shade, but like it mines the earth for metal, and you refine it with a lot of energy to make paperclips, and you package it up and creates waste and heat, and as it ships it around, and we buy paperclips. That's truly no shade to the paperclip industry. That's what it's there to do. But this idea that an AI would run rampant while this business wouldn't, it was really relying on the difference in what we defined as good. Of course, as long as they operate within the laws, They can just, they can, they would lose customers if they destroyed the earth, but they could just keep going. So actually the issue is not like, to me, that the AI can be aligned. It's what are we willing to give up for what we're willing to get? And that is not business's job. Business's job is to maximize profits with things that are going to help people's lives. That's what they should focus on. The social sector is the only place that defines what good is. And I'm going to give you one real example of this. There's a great book called Voices in the Code. And it's a story about people trying to write an AI to help with liver transplants. There's a big list. Liver transplants come in a lot of times kind of ad hoc. Someone goes first come, first serve. I know this person, called them up. We're on the transplant list. And they go, we've got to automate this, make it more efficient. Well, the first question that the group has to tackle is who gets the next liver? And you hear the people, it's interviews with them. And one person says, oh, well, the youngest person should get the liver because they have the longest life ahead of them. Reasonable. Someone else jumps in and goes, if a young person ruined their liver, I don't think they make good choices. Morally, they shouldn't get it. They lost their chance. And still someone else says, well, I guess we should think about their kind of economic benefit. Do they have kids? I mean, you can clearly see, like, there is no answer, right? It's just what we decide is acceptable. What are we willing to give up for what we're trying to get? And I think that is also even in something as small as the Reading Institute's example. One of the things we ask all of our nonprofits when they're building AI is, how do you know what good looks like? Because all of us in the nonprofit space, we're not maximizing for profits, we're maximizing for some simple metric. It's always, we're putting energy and time and people against a social outcome. And are we really clear about what that is? I think the black mirror for us in AI is not that it runs amok, but that we never get clear on what we're doing enough to really align it to what we want. And so, that's not easy, but it begins with that conversation and us getting a little bit more clear. And I think we can do that. So where do we go from here? And the good news is, I think we already know a lot about how to bend AI towards what we want to do. And the answer, of course, comes from all of us coming together across these industries in these types of environments. Whether you're a technologist, a nonprofit, a citizen, philanthropy, there's room to break down these boundaries, to cross them and work together, whether we're building an AI app or talking about what good is. It's not going to work just in a silo. And so, if you use practical next steps, first off, we're here at Decoded Futures wrestling with this problem. You might just want to keep up with our latest findings. We're at decodedfutures.nyc. We have some other case studies like Josue and some others who've done fantastic things. And our Substack, we're always writing about what we learn. But you may also want to get involved. Hey, maybe you want to come and get some help, in which case we got some QR codes coming. So grab those phones if you like. Nonprofits, we're always running programs that pair with technologists, understand what you all need. And technologists, hey, if you were like me, wishing there was more than just the Snuggie or the meme generator company to work for, come volunteer with us. There are tons of folks who just need some guidance. Like, how do I actually do this thing in Gemini? There's lots of opportunities there. And there's opportunities across the city. Rich Limesider runs the AI for Nonprofits sprint. OpenAI Academy is doing great work. I help on a group called Opportunity AI, which is a number of funders wrestling with how we can fund AI better. Get involved with all those things. And one little last piece, if you want to see more demos, we have a demo day for our current cohort coming up on June 17th. So if you were snapping QR codes, grab one more and come along. But what I want to close with is, I think this is just a chance to re-examine how we all approach this new technology. Do we want to be paralyzed, waiting for it to be figured out? Do we want to go the route of IT waves of the past? Or can we actually leverage these partnerships and these communities to come together to see what happens when nonprofits are at the center, with business helping and technologists at the side? I know this can work. We've done it before, and we have all these vessels to do it again. So let's get together, let's break that down, and then we can go from wondering like, oh my God, how is my life going to change with agents? And realize like, you know what? We actually are the agents of change. Thank you very much.